Ready? Okay. I'll call to order this meeting for the Lonsdale City Council, September 30th, 2021. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Steve Cherney.
Here.
Kevin Kadada. Here. Tim Rood.
Here.
Cindy Fuhr.
Here.
And Scott Palava.
Here.
Okay, tonight's agenda goes through 10J. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second.
second by Councilperson Fuhr. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. Consider approval of the minutes from the September 9th, 2021 regular meeting. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes?
Move we approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by Councilman Kadada.
Second.
Second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have a public hearing tonight. I'll call to order this public improvement hearing, 2022 Street and Utility Improvement Project. Nick Williams, City Engineer. Nick, you're up to bat. Are we going up here?
I thought that was just a rehearsal.
Sure you had a new slides or pictures or something, right? Sorry.
New name. I hope his name is not different.
I'll try to use some different words. All right, well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is the public hearing for the 2022 Street and Utility Improvement Project. As Joel mentioned, this presentation is nearly identical to the one you saw 3 weeks ago, so bear with me on that. But we'll go through the presentation, then open up the public hearing and be able to answer any questions that anyone has. General information, city personnel, won't name them all, but it's everyone here, Joel, Russ, and myself. Purpose of the meeting. So we're going to go over the project location, the improvements, costs and assessments, really for property owners to ask any questions. We did have a neighborhood meeting, but if there's any more questions they want to address the council with regarding the project, now would be the chance to do that at the public hearing. We have completed our feasibility report. That is done now, and the next step would be to, council will consider ordering the project this evening and authorizing plans and specs later in the agenda. We will be following the Minnesota State Statute 429 regarding assessments. And again, tonight would be the night of the project does proceed. Final assessment amount, payment period, and interest rate will be decided at the public hearing, which would be, the assessment hearing would be in February 24th of 22. Go through the next slide. So the history, CIP was created in 2006. Done numerous projects since then. You can see the years there. Was updated in 2020 to include the citywide rating of payment condition index, and that's how the 2021 and 22 projects were identified. We've seen this chart. This is the pavement deterioration chart. You can see here that these roads are definitely below reconstruction level as far as the condition. 60 is usually where we start thinking about that, so you can see some pretty low numbers there. So these roads are definitely in need of reconstruction. There's only one caveat with a 93 there. There was an overlay done a few years back, but the rest of the roads are definitely in tough shape. Location. So we've got 3rd Avenue Southwest between Central and Colorado, 4th Avenue Southwest between Cassaw 4 and Colorado, or Railway, Alabama Street from 4th to 2nd, and then Arizona Street. That would just be a water main replacement only. We also have 2 alleys, that's between Central, 2nd, Alabama, and 3rd, and also Alabama, 2nd, Colorado, and 3rd. So the improvements, complete replacement of the water main and services, including up to the curb stop. There is a section of new water main we're proposing in the feasibility study on 3rd Avenue Southwest from Alabama to Railway, and that's really due to some very long services in that area. So extending that water main would reduce that length of services and help the system. Sanitary sewer is overall in good shape. Couple spot repairs. There's a sag that's been identified. Me and Russ actually were just looking at the video of that, and we'll certainly be adding that to the scope of the project. Bituminous pavement reclamation, we grind up the pavement, use it for driveway access. Street reconstruction to existing widths, really important to note that. We're not changing the width, we're leaving it the same as it is today. Put a sand subsection in, drain tile. Drain tile will be there to help drain the road and also allow people to connect their sump pumps to. Storm sewer is in overall pretty good condition. However, the structures themselves are deteriorated to the point where we do need to replace those, so we're proposing to do that. And then lastly, curb and gutter replacement. So a typical section of the road, you see 66-foot wide right-of-way on these roads. Shows the new curb and gutter, the drain tile, and then we will crown the road 2% each direction to help drainage into the new curb and ultimately the storm sewer system. The road section we're putting in, start with some fabric, helps reflective cracking, then put a foot of sand, 8 inches of class 5 base, and then our 3.5 inches of pavement. Water main, map of the water main system, again, complete replacement of the system. You can see in purple there at the top, on third, a new section of water main that will be proposed with the project. Storm sewer, map of this, again, just the structures themselves is what we're looking at doing, and just a small percentage of pipe, but the remaining of it we would not be touching. Sanitary sewer, we did look at the videos there, overall good condition, a couple spot repairs identified, and I previously mentioned the sag that we will be addressing there as well. Okay, on to cost. So street and service improvements, looking about $750,000, sanitary sewer, about 50. Water main, you can see is $300,000. You'll see that's the second highest cost because we are replacing the entire water main system there, so that's why that number is the highest, second highest I should say. Storm sewer about $165,000, alleys $75,000. That puts us at a grand total of approximately $1.3 million. At this point, we do add the 10% contingency without knowing cost yet, without having design done. That puts us at a subtotal of about $1.46 million. Indirect costs, $263,000. The indirect costs are costs for engineering, legal, advertising, things of that nature. Soft costs is what we call those typically. Putting it as a total estimated project cost of $1.7 million and change. So again, the cost for indirects, bonding, engineering, legal, administrative costs does include a 10% contingency, and these costs are estimated at this point based on recent projects bid using the best numbers that we have today. Financing, issue general obligation bonds. Those will be paid for by the assessments to benefiting properties, general property tax levy, and then the enterprise funds from water and sewer. Proposed assessment area, you can see the map highlighted here. We are proposing to assess properties that are benefiting from the project. There are 2 commercial properties and 1 multifamily residential that will be assessed with this project as well. Assessment rates, same as this year's project, that's $14,000 per single family residential unit. The commercial industrial high density residential is at $244.80 per front foot. This is the amortization schedule based on a $14,000 assessment and administrative 4.9%. This will show over a 15-year period what the principal and interest payments would be if someone chooses to go through the whole 15-year cycle, which would go through your property taxes. I will highlight the first year is definitely the most, and that's because of the length of time that interest is charged. With the assessment hearing being done prior to the project, we're looking at about 22 months of interest. If you choose to just not pay it and go on your property taxes, this is what the interest would be. We'll go over what if someone's not interested in paying interest, what that date would be on the next slide. So 15 years, there are some deferral options. Property must be homesteaded is a requirement. 65 years age or older, retired due to permanent total disability, or member of military active duty do have some deferral options. The interest does accrue until paid in full, cannot be delayed more than 30 years. This is the big part. No interest to pay within 30 days of the assessment hearing. So the assessment hearing is on February 24th of 22. If someone pays by March 24th of 22, there'd be no interest. So that's the key date, for folks to remember is if you don't want to pay interest, pay by that date. And again, you'll be getting notice from the city in advance. There won't be an invoice, but it'll be documentation showing that that's the date of the assessment hearing and, when the interest would accrue. First payment would be with the 2023 property taxes if someone chooses not to pay up front. And the first year interest accrues at $1.88 per day and will count for about 675 days. Timeline. So at the last meeting, we had the neighborhood meeting on December 9th. Tonight is the public hearing. This is where the council will consider ordering the improvement and authorizing preparation of plans and specs later in tonight's agenda. December 9th would be approval of plans and specs and also advertisement for bids. Receive bids January 18th of 22. Again, the assessment hearing is scheduled for February 24th of 22. That's the same night that we would award a construction contract. Big construction in May. Construction inspection complete in September, and then complete the final paving the following year through one freeze-thaw cycle, which would be June of 23. So this is our contact information. Again, if anybody has questions, please feel free to read. They can reach out to me or Joel. We're happy to answer those questions. Any design-related issues you think we should know about, we'd love to hear about those things. With that, we can open up the public hearing, and that concludes staff's report.
Lights there, Russ. Thank you. All right, that was a presentation. I think some of you were at the neighborhood meeting, but again, this is your opportunity to speak. If you have any concerns, any issues, any questions, certainly it's open to the public. Anybody got any thoughts? Just to reiterate too, if, as the project goes along, if there's any medical issues, access issues, special occasions, all that kind of thing, make sure you feel free to contact Nick or contact the city, and we'll make sure that gets addressed accordingly. Mr. Novak?
Any update on what's going to happen, if anything, on Third Avenue Southwest where it abuts to Highway 19 and County 4?
From what I understand, the County 4 project has been delayed at least a year.
Okay.
Is that correct, Joel? That
is correct,
Because of some
yes.
staffing issues? And right now, I think the plan is basically to leave it as is, the same intersection.
Okay.
Right.
That is correct. Yeah, we tried to coordinate with Rice County. That's why we broke it up north-south, because they were anticipating redoing County Road 4 next year. So we just thought, hey, that area of town will have 1 year of construction kind of on all sides. Unfortunately, like was just noted, due to staffing issues, Rice County, as of right now, has postponed the project until 23.
Okay, any other questions? Did you receive any emails or calls or anything in regards to the hearing?
Nope, I received a call from one resident that was unable to make it. I printed off the presentation and dropped it off at her house and kind of hit the key points, the assessments, things like that, and told her if there was any questions to give me a call.
Anybody else? Last call?
And move we close this public hearing?
Motion by Councilman Kadada.
Second.
Second by Councilperson Fear. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions
Oh.
for Nick, if that's all right.
Sure, yeah.
Is that okay? Nick, thank you, Aaron. Nick, regarding performance delays in the project, could you go over that again? If we've been suffering the pains of delays with our police department building, and what oversight do we have with respect to performance? In other words, is there any jeopardy to the contractors if they underperform to your expectation? Could you kind of talk about it just briefly?
Sure, yes, Mayor and Council. So are you referring to scheduling?
Yes,
Okay,
scheduling
sure.
or delay, or they come up with a delay because of manpower, we can't do this, and now we have a street that's torn up for longer than we expected. I need to know about that.
Sure. So what we do to combat that is we have a completion date in the specs, which will be a substantial completion date and a final completion date. So With that, we also write in there that if the job's not completed within that timeline, we identify the items of work that should be completed substantially, which is usually the first layer of paving, all the utilities, curb and gutter, things of that nature. If they don't meet that, we do have an avenue called liquidated damages, where if they, aren't fulfilling their contractual duties to complete the project in that time, we can assess that to them. That number varies based on the project cost.
Okay.
So usually around 1,000, maybe 1,500 a day. So it can add up pretty significantly
Sure.
over time. And so we do have that avenue, and so if things aren't progressing, we try to avoid that, with weekly meetings and things to push them along. But if we have that,
As a
hammer, if you
remedy.
will, if things aren't moving like we should. So-
Perfect.
And typically follow the MnDOT guidelines.
Yep.
So it's spelled out there with the contractor's responsibility and
Good,
claims
good.
and all that kind of
Well,
stuff.
that's a perfect segue, Your Honor, and Nick, my next question. One of the projects we've had in the past 4 years is our Main Street project out here, and we've gone through some pains there with oversight, that's physical oversight, to make sure that people are, we have eyes on the ground. We don't want Joel running out there as the city administrator, keeping eyes on it. Can you address how that's gonna happen, or have you identified who it's gonna be? Because I think that's important, to have eyes out there.
Absolutely, yeah. So once construction starts, we will have a full-time construction observer on the site from WSB who will be watching the project. Myself, I will be out there on a regular basis too for weekly meetings and following up any design issues or big issues that come up. But yeah, we have oversight there the whole time. We've got materials testing happening during the, testing the concrete, the bit and all that. So, yep.
Well, we all appreciate that, Nick, so thank you. That's all I had, Your Honor.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This public hearing is now closed. Presentation of citizens petitions and comments limited to 2 minutes. So if you're not on the agenda tonight, now is your opportunity to speak. Anybody?
I would like to speak if I may.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah,
Give
absolutely.
me a moment here. I didn't have a chance to print it off, so I have to use my computer. I
Yeah,
apologize.
oh, all right, sure, sure.
Good evening. My name is Scott Palava. I'm a resident of Lonsdale, 729 Florida Street Southwest. I wanted to address something that has been bothering me for a while over the past several years and as a council member, but I feel it's important that our citizens know about this. 19 years ago this month, I signed the papers to build a home in Lonsdale, knowing nothing of the community other than there was affordable housing. 3 years later, I chose to open a business in the same community because I wanted to provide service at a level that had not been delivered to the community prior to that. To this day, I still commit myself to the same level of community service. 12 years ago next month, I was elected to the Lonsdale City Council as a freshman council member. I will admit it took me well over a year to learn the ropes and understand really what it took to operate a city on the financial and logistical sides. The work has never been easy, but we've had a great dedicated group of residents serving on advisory boards. Whoops, I apologize, I just fat-fingered that. I got just enough glare here that, there we go. We've had a great group of dedicated residents serving on advisory boards and city council this entire time. Over the last 4 years, there was a change that I initially thought was a simple new council member's passion for doing what is right for our community, but I have since realized it is nothing more than a self-serving attitude by this council member. Most residents of this community do not know what goes on in the day-to-day operations of our city or city hall. Our city administrator and city staff has been subject to temper tantrums and outbursts by one council member. Some of these temper tantrums and outbursts have even been witnessed during official city meetings, including the council member walking out of the chambers or abstaining from voting for no reason other than to be difficult. This same council member has also spoken many times, not on behalf of the city, but of his personal opinion while portraying it the position of the city that has led to 2 cease and desist orders for defamation of character of some very well-known and upstanding individuals. And these type of actions that this council member has taken could lead to potential lawsuits to the city and lack of cooperation by other developers in the future. This council member has manipulated and worked his way into the spotlight and even takes credit for things he has not done. City government is the nuts and bolts of what keeps us going. It is the closest interaction that most individuals will have with their government. My opinion is there's no place for politics in local government, but one council member seems to think this is where it should be. I don't think the city staff, mayor, council, and ultimately the people of Lonsdale deserve this type of behavior from who they have elected. Especially one who has stated multiple times, F the residents, they're a bunch of assholes. This behavior is clearly what I call failed leadership, and Lonsdale will be better off without it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. On to the consent agenda. There is 5 items tonight: the monthly bills, the treasurer's report, the board and commission minutes. Consider approval of a Minnesota lawful gambling LG 240B application to conduct excluded bingo submitted by the American Legion Auxiliary Unit 586 to conduct bingo on November 12th, 2021. Consider approval of a quote submitted by Busho Enterprises LLC in the amount of $15,905 for hauling and spreading biosolids. Would anybody like any of those items pulled for discussion?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fear. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to old business. Discuss proposed 2021-307, an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 33 of the Lonsdale City Code concerning city elections, switching from odd year to even year elections. Mr. Erickson.
All right, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. This has been talked about over the last several months as far as switching from odd to even year elections to coincide with federal, state elections, and then also saving costs to the city, not having an election every year, and then also with the fact that election judges are becoming more difficult to find. This was presented at the September 9th council meeting. The reason for that was we needed to schedule a public hearing, which was scheduled for October 14th at 7:15 at our next council meeting. Unfortunately, the city attorney had a prior commitment, wasn't able to attend. He is here today. I asked him to attend just if there was any questions, just given process. I just want to make sure everyone has a clear understanding of what's proposed in the ordinance. Basically, to summarize the ordinance, it's switching from odd to even year elections. There's some timelines that have to be met 180 days prior to filing. I believe it goes into effect 240 days after it's adopted, or as noted in the ordinance. State statute 205.07 regulates when cities can conduct elections. And cities can obviously conduct elections in either odd or even years. One caveat to the process would be that if within 180 days of the ordinance being adopted, 10% of or a number equal to or greater than 10% of the number of voters from the last city election sign a petition, the change would go to a vote of the residents. We have to obviously adopt an ordinance designating elections be conducted in even years, determine how terms will expire. Will they be shortened or lengthened? Will the mayor's term remain 2 years or be increased to 4? The council reviewed some of those questions at the September 9th council meeting. It was decided to proceed with switching the election year before our November 2nd election here in about 6 weeks. Or less than it actually, basically a month. Staff did recommend that it be done prior to the election. This way candidates know the length of the term and residents know the length of the term when they're voting at our upcoming election. Terms as proposed and agreed to at the September 9th meeting would extend 1 year, and it was the consensus to keep the mayor's term at 2 years. As far as the fiscal impact, it would save about $2,700 in odd years. Cost of publication of the summary ordinance and the public hearing. The alternatives would be to not proceed with changing the city election to even years. And then included with the staff report was the memo from the city attorney, change in odd, even election years. Minnesota State Statute 205.07, and then the draft ordinance 2021-307. So.
Maybe you could, why don't you comment a little more detail on the justification or the reasoning for this? You know, not only the monies, but now that you don't have the Rice County offices, assistants, the difficulty with election judges, all those kind of things.
Yep. We were fortunate to get enough election judges for the last presidential election in 2020. For various reasons, some of those judges have elected not to do it again. So actually, I'm still going to have to find a couple more election judges to make sure that we have enough. And then, as you alluded to, this was the first year that, actually was one previous time, but it was years ago, but Rice County is no longer providing absentee ballot processing in odd year elections. So the city treasurer and myself went through the training. We were appointed to the absentee ballot board, and we are processing absentee ballots for this election.
And just for the resident, I mean, the theory, of course, back in the day was so that the residents would just focus on the city election, you know, not get kind of caught up in the presidential election, all those kind of things. And there used to be other elections with us. The New Prague School Board, I think, used to be at the same time, and, you know.
Correct.
And they have changed to even years, so I think the justification, as Joel said, of course, is the cost and the time and, you know, the whole processing of ballots and all that kind of stuff, and
Joel, could I ask a question
Sure,
about that?
absolutely.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. The ballots, you've already received the ballots, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do I recall, do the ballots list the term time on them? Does it say 4-year term and 2-year term for the council members and for the mayor?
I would have to double check.
Okay.
I don't
know if that would
believe
that be
so.
problematic. If we changed it and,
I would have to check that,
Okay.
but I don't believe that it is on there. I think it's the
okay, I seem to
No, it's
recall
good
seeing
point.
that
Good point.
position, the
on ballots
names,
before, so,
and
Good point.
vote up to.
okay,
I think that's one thing's on there.
okay. I don't know why I remember seeing that listed for
Right.
terms,
right.
so.
Since the city attorney is here, maybe you want to step up and introduce yourself again, and maybe just kind of comment on what Joel and the city council is proposing.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I'm David Kendall, I'm the city attorney. I don't see you all too often because we have an agreement with you that I will only appear here at your meetings upon request when necessary. So, I guess that's a good thing because you haven't seen me too often. That means you haven't been sued too often, haven't been in trouble too often. So, it's nice to see you again. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think Joel has summarized it correctly. This kind of change is authorized by statute. If you want to do it, you can. You certainly don't have to, but you have the option. As far as, I've not seen the ballots, but I don't think that they say that there's a specific term on the ballot.
I'm looking at one right now, and I guess not, but I remember seeing that at some point where it listed that somewhere, and I just wanted
Sure,
clarification.
that's a good point.
Didn't want
Yeah.
to be
No, it's a good
misleading.
point. No,
Yeah,
good
that's an
point.
excellent question, because if that were on the ballot, I think you would have a problem. But
Right.
if it's not, then I don't think you do. I think it's probably, you know, you have the option to choose a shorter term and then have the election sooner, or then choose a longer term. I think it makes sense, at least to me, to have the longer term, because when people run for the office, they expect to serve at least the normal term.
Right,
And when people elect people to the office, they expect those people to serve at least the normal term.
right.
Cutting it short, I think, you know, people might feel like they were misled about how long the person, when they ran, how long they were gonna serve, and if they voted for them, how long they were gonna serve, you know, the person they voted for.
Right, right.
So,
right.
you can do it either way. I think extending the terms makes more sense to me, but that's ultimately up to you.
Sure, sure.
Beyond that, Joel's right that if the citizens have concerns about this and they file a petition and they get the number of signatures required, then they can put it to a vote of the citizens whether you change this. So it's not solely up to the council.
Right,
If there's people who object, they can voice that objection and they can be heard on that.
right, right. Good points. Good. Anybody have questions, comments?
Your Honor,
Sure.
has the attorney allowed a question outside of this topic?
Well, not right now. Well, I don't know.
Or will you
Typically
s-
not. I mean.
Like, what,
we're
are
just-
you gonna stay for the entire meeting?
I certainly can stay for the entire meeting. I mean, I guess I'd recommend that you handle this item
Right.
on the agenda,
Yeah.
and then if there's additional questions on additional items, you could recall that at a later point on the agenda.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your time, and you know, obviously it helps the city, you know, because obviously some are up for reelection and all. It's nice to have an independent review per se to review things and go over things, so.
Yeah, and I also think it's good that you are, I think Joel meant to say maybe September 14th, that was the date I was tied up. But I think it's good that you're having these hearings before the November election, because then everyone knows, you know,
Right.
hopefully when they vote in that election, kind of what's happening. So
Right.
you technically would have had the option to have this on the agenda after that election, but I think it's good that you're having it before, because then everyone knows
Good point.
what's happening.
Good point.
I
That's a
do
really
have
good
one
point.
question pertaining to this.
Sure.
David, hi, Steve Cherney. With respect to the mayor's term being 2 or 4 years, our mayor's set up on a 2-year cycle. There's other cities that are on a 4-year cycle. Is that just a choice of the city, or is there a benefit for having the timing of the mayor coincide 4 years with the fellow council members?
I don't think there's any particular benefit or drawback, it's just a choice.
Okay.
It's allowed by statute, so
Okay.
if you have previously had that 2-year term and you want to keep that, you're allowed to keep that.
Okay, thank you.
Man, you know, personally, I like the idea of a mayor at a 2-year term, quite honestly. You know, and, you know, for example, you know, if things aren't going well, you get the opportunity to, you know, change every 2 years, all those kind of things, you know. That's just
Okay,
my,
thank you.
my thoughts, so. Okay.
If there's no further questions, I can sit down. If you have questions later, I'd be happy to stay.
Sure, I guess, I mean, Joe, do you want him to stay for anything, or do you want to?
Yeah, if there's,
I
the
do
city
have a
council
question
has
for later.
questions, that's.
Okay. If you don't mind staying for a little bit.
Not at all, not
Okay.
at all.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming down. Thanks for your time. All right, so where do we want to leave this? We just have a discussion? Do you want a motion on something tonight or not?
No, the motion has already been made and approved to schedule the public hearing. That notice has been in the paper, so the next step is to conduct the public hearing.
All right, thanks. Thanks again. Okay, consider approval of the City of Lonsdale's American Rescue Plan, Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, Policy and Applications. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. During the budget process, the city council has discussed this several times. At the last meeting, which was held on September 20th, the city council reviewed a proposed policy and applications for American Rescue Plan. It's the city's American Rescue Plan, grant funding, policy and application. Everything in the policy is the same. The changes that were made were discussed and approved by the council. The city council allocated $100,000 for grants of up to $4,000 for eligible businesses, nonprofits. This was added. The nonprofits have to have a physical presence in Lonsdale and brick and mortar expenses, and then residents. Financial requirements are 2019 and 2020 tax returns and 2021 year-to-date profit loss statement or equivalent. That has to be submitted with the application. The fiscal impact of the city, I went back and saw the amount of time that was reimbursed with the first COVID dollars, and it was about $3,000 that the city got reimbursed themselves for administering the program. Alternatives would be to not approve the proposed ARP policy and applications. No funding would be provided to businesses, nonprofits, and residents, or make any revisions the council deems appropriate to the proposed policy and applications. Attachments included are program summary from the city attorney back, I think it was in March or April when we first started discussing this. The first round of COVID-19 grant funding award spreadsheet, the businesses and residents, nonprofits that were awarded funding, and then the proposed ARP policy and applications.
Okay, anybody got comments, any thoughts on it? Well, one thing I just want to clarify, you know, I think these COVID dollars, I think ultimately are probably subject to audit. And I think we should be really careful how we're spending this money and utilizing the money within the community. I did have Joel check on a couple of things. And there are clearly two uses that are stated as prohibited. use of funds to offset or delay a tax increase, and deposit into a pension fund. So those things are clearly spelled out in the American Recovery Act. So again, I just reiterate that I think we just got to be pretty, by the book or pretty cognizant of federal dollars and how we spend it here. Other than that, I guess we'll need a motion on the approval.
Motion to approve the American Rescue Plan for Lonsdale.
Motion by Councilman Palava, second by Councilperson Fear. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, consider approval of Resolution 2021-50, a resolution ordering the improvement of the 2022 Street and Utility Improvement Project. Nick Williams, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So for your consideration this evening is Resolution 2021-50. Earlier tonight, we held a public hearing for the 2022 Street Improvement Project. The next step would be for the council to consider Resolution 2021-50, ordering the improvements as proposed in the feasibility study and authorizing WSB to start the preparation of plans and specifications for the project. Fiscal impact, if this does move forward, there's an agenda item later for our proposal for the design fee. That's in the amount of $61,988 to do the plans and specs. That'll be considered later. The alternative would be to not approve it, and that would delay the 22 project moving forward. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I think we talked a little bit about the bidding process and bidding environment. I think we mentioned we're probably at the prime time for bidding, and it seems like things are still pretty competitive. Any thoughts on that, or is that what you've seen also?
Yes, we're still seeing things pretty competitive. People are still hungry, looking for work, so we're expecting prices to be pretty similar as last year. There's some material cost increases, but we're expecting things to be pretty stable. Maybe go up a little bit, but nothing too bad.
Okay.
You seen any delays with, pipe or anything like that, or?
Yeah, so that's been an issue for some contractors. The good news is we bid early here, so we get a lead time to order the material in time. By the time spring starts, by bidding early, that's one advantage is they can start ordering the material early and get everything. Some people had some problems that waited, until April or May. Some of the pipe was gone, especially PVC. But hopefully those material issues are starting to wind down now that we've had some time to get things manufacturing back up. But for the most part, good contractors order stuff early, and we haven't had any problems.
Yeah, obviously it's been a really good summer for construction. It's remarkable how early or how fast things can get built when the construction season.
Helps when there's not much rain. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not good for for a lot of other things, but
Yeah, it's good for construction. You're
one
right.
good thing it is.
You're right.
Yep.
You're right. Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-50.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second.
second by Councilman Kadada. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of Resolution 2021-51, a resolution proclaiming October 15, 2021 in the city of Lonsdale as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. Kathy Honick, come on up. You're right at the bell, aren't you, boy? No wasted time with you.
No.
Want to talk a little bit about it, or otherwise I got the proclamation here, or go ahead if you want to talk a little bit about it.
I'm not sure what I should say. So Infants Remembered in Silence is an organization out of Faribault. And we submitted a request for proclamation for Infant Loss Remembered, Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness, Day. It's been a long day.
That's it.
Which is recognized nationally on October 15th. As an organization that works with families throughout a 6-county area, including Rice County, City of Lonsdale, we had made the request that Lonsdale recognize this as a National Day of Proclamation.
Okay, I'll actually read the proclamation. A resolution proclaiming October 15, 2021 in the city of Lonsdale as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. Whereas infants remembered in silence IRIS, and many other nonprofit organizations work with thousands of people all over Minnesota and across the United States who have experienced the death of a child during pregnancy, through early childhood. And whereas many of these parents live in, deliver in, have a child die in, or bury a child in our community, and whereas Infants Remembered, Inc. Silence, 501c3 nonprofit organization, was founded in 1987, 33 years ago, to support the to support parents whose children have died from miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, multiple pregnancy, stillbirth, neonatal death, birth defects, sudden and unexplained death of a child, SUDC, sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, illness, accidents, and other types of infants and early childhood death. And whereas bereaved parents around the world remember their children annually on October 15th at 7 p.m. with a candle lighting, some will remember their childs in their homes, while others will remember them in small gatherings around the state, across the nation, and around the world. And whereas in 1988, President Ronald Reagan proclaimed October as National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and whereas this proclamation will unify parents in tribute to their children that die each year in Minnesota, whereas in honor of thousands of children that die each year in Minnesota, Infants Remembered in Silence, Inc. has respectfully requested that October 15th, 2021 in Lonsdale be recognized as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. So I would entertain a motion to accept or approve that resolution.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Palava, second by Councilman Kadada. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now therefore be resolved by the City Council of the City of Lonsdale, Minnesota, that October 15th, 2021 is declared Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day in the City of Lonsdale, adopted by the City Council of the City of Lonsdale this 30th day of September 2021. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Okay. Presentation on the National League of Cities Service Line Warranty Program by HomeServe. Is the lady here? Okay, you're going to take it then, Joel?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Unfortunately, Ashley had a travel conflict and was unable to make it to Minnesota for the meeting tonight on time. I told her I would go over the information contained, and if it was something that the city council chose to proceed with or wanted more information on, or Ashley to attend, I would let her know and have her attend an upcoming meeting. We've talked about this program a couple times in the past, during times when someone had a water service line break and had increased or incurred the cost of that repair if it was on their side, or $1,000 if it's on our side of the right of way. We've had some deep sanitary sewer repairs too that wouldn't be covered 100% by this program, but would provide some financial assistance to those property owners. The three programs that they have are for exterior water line, or exterior water service line, exterior sanitary sewer service line, and then interior plumbing and drainage. The city's obligation would be to provide a non-exclusive license to use the city's name, logo, for a minimum of 3 years. Utility service partners' obligations would be to market and solicit the programs, provide the three coverage programs that I just went over, the water and sanitary sewer service line coverage, and then again the interior plumbing and drainage. They'd be responsible for management of enrollment, billing, and then ensuring timely delivery and high-quality repair services. I believe I have it on here. The cost of each of the programs, of course, when you want it, you can find it. I believe the water was $675 a month. The water $675 a month. Sanitary sewer, the monthly premium is $7.75 a month. And then in-home plumbing is $9.99 a month. The city does have the option to receive 50 cents a month from each written and paid policy. The program is supported by the National League of Cities and then the League of Minnesota Cities Business Leadership Council. In lieu of the city receiving 50 cents, it's like a royalty, so to speak, the city could forego that, and those monthly premiums would be reduced by the 50 cents a month. And I asked Ashley what enrollment typically is. I mean, is this just to say, you know, we've got something? Is it 10%, 60%? She said after the first year, it's about 10% enrollment, and then after the third year, it doubles up to 20% of the residents. If we did use 10%, we have about a little over between 1,500 and 1,600 connections. So it would be the city at 10% would receive a little under $1,000 a year in royalties. I guess alternatives at this point are not to proceed to enter into an agreement with utility service partners, or if you guys would like more information and representative from the company to come, I certainly can schedule that for an upcoming meeting.
I guess my question is, so this is a private insurance company that's offering insurance to residents for sewer and water?
That is correct.
I assume there's probably other companies that do that also, I would guess. But it looks like here that they want us to enter into a marketing agreement. And my concern is, so if you go tell this resident, oh, the city of Lonsdale said you should go get this warranty or whatever, and that's not really what we're saying. You know, it seems like this is a private business issue, isn't it?
Right.
Isn't that what it's-
Yeah, they want to use the city's logo to provide credence or give it, you know, credence.
Well,
Or
that's-
does it portray that we're offering it?
Right,
That's the
that-
thing, is,
right.
or do we endorse it, or are we doing it? That's-
Right, and it's either or, I mean, do we even want to endorse it, really? I mean, we don't know this company from, I mean, you know, you see these car shield ads on TV every night, you know, and,
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't buy them.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how many properties have insurance through their insurance companies. I know going through the hailstorm that we had, I guess I didn't realize it, but I think I've got $10,000 in service line coverage in my homeowner's policy.
That's what I was gonna ask, like, typical homeowners policies cover that, I've never had to deal with that.
Sometimes when they're writing a policy, they write it for the bare minimum to get the sale, and there's lots of exclusions, which a
Right.
lot of us found out about exclusions after this hailstorm.
Yeah.
And
Do we know any communities around here
Yeah,
that
I thought
participate
that-
with this one?
I thought that they were listed in here, but of course.
I guess that, my
Once
question is
again,
just,
I can't
why do we even
find
want to
it.
be
Oh, yeah.
involved in it?
Yeah, I mean, there were, you know, Edina, St. Louis Park, Richfield, Columbia Heights, St. Michael, Mounds View, I mean, Olivia, Chatfield, LeSueur, South St. Paul. There's probably 25 communities in the state that are partner with the company.
If we don't partner with them, can a citizen just seek them out and buy it, or do they have to be?
And
I would assume so.
I would bet the
Insurance
other thing that's
companies
gonna
want as much
happen,
money.
so if you have a city logo and they have an issue and they're not resolved satisfactory,
Joel.
they're coming to Joel, they're coming to City Hall, they're coming to the city council and say, hey, you guys said we should use this company. You know, it's right on your logo, and
And we can't even fire them because they're not even under us, you know what I mean?
I just don't see a reason why we should be involved.
Who would
You're
be
on-
doing the repairs? This company, or is the person, the homeowner can have whoever repair and use people's cover, or how does that exactly work?
My understanding is they have a list of kind of pre-qualified contractors.
I just think it's something
I don't see how the citizens would benefit from this.
Right.
But, you know, if they can, to Scott's question, if they can pursue this on their own without our logo, that's fine. But for us to stamp it, I don't see any benefit for our citizens having our logo on it and having Joel's office tied up with it.
Right.
Right.
I would think we'd want to steer clear from this.
Okay, so you just want to pass that on to them, that
Yep.
we'll pass on it? Okay, thank you. Consider approval of resolution 2021-52, a resolution setting the fiscal year 2022 preliminary city budget and preliminary property tax levy. Mr. Erickson?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As I've said several times this meeting, our last budget meeting was held September 20th. We did hold 6 meetings, all of which were open to the public to discuss the city's proposed 2022 preliminary property tax levy and budget. As proposed, the budget is $10,700,000. The city needs to adopt and certify its 2022 preliminary property tax levy to Rice County after the meeting. Today's the last day to do that. I'll be sending that, like I said, after the meeting. If it's not approved tonight and certified to Rice County, the city would revert back to our 2021 tax levy amount. As proposed, there'll be a wide variation of tax impact based on how much a residential property's value has changed over the year. In addition, the lesser valued homes will see their market value homestead exclusion reduced at a larger percent than more expensive homes. What that means is that more of their value will be taxed than the previous year. And then included in the staff report is the spreadsheet that we've been tracking certain houses and what that tax increase or decrease has been over the years. With an estimated 5% increase in values, the proposed levy, the levy is proposed to be $2,445,000, increase of $204,000 or 9%. The tax rate will increase to 58.078 or just over 3%. But since 2016, the city's tax rate has decreased by over 21%. And then the tax impact ranges on the houses that we're tracking anywhere from $84 to $263. Briefly going over the departments, City Council, depending on how the compensation goes on the 14th at 7, that public hearing. As of right now, we've got 21 regular meetings, 15 special meetings, budgeted for audio repairs, and then training, and then obviously the switch to election, or switch to even years will have an impact as well. As far as administration, revenues are essentially property taxes and local government aid. Some of the professional services that are funded out of City Hall would be mosquito control, necessary financial reporting, our copier, tech support, assessments. We are working with Metro Sales to spec out a new copier for 2022. Our contract is up in February, so I'd anticipate they typically go about 2 months out and start working on proposals at that time. Dues and subscriptions, League of Minnesota Cities, our payroll and fund accounting software, the city's website, and then discussions that we've had, windows and HVAC are proposed to be funded with ARP or COVID funds. Planning and zoning, main revenues are building permits, and obviously their main expenses is inspections. Engineering, we've got general and Highway 19 for the mill and overlay that MnDOT is working on. As I said before, our building official contract ends at the end of 22, so we'll have to discuss how we want to proceed with that, contracting or going back. For the short term that we had a building official on staff. And then Data Link, which is our GIS, Esri, GIS, and then Adobe. As far as the police department, main revenues are property taxes, LGA, police aid from the state, and then fines and forfeitures. Later in the meeting, we'll be reviewing the collective bargaining agreement, which was tentatively agreed to. Those changes have been incorporated into the proposed budget. Professional services would be the copier, drug task force, any state connections to their internet networks, tech support. At the last budget meeting, we talked about purchasing a new squad car. That expense was budgeted over a 2-year period. The fund will run a deficit because we're expensing 100% of the project in 22. We have allocated some forfeiture funds to help finance the expense, and we will be pursuing a gasoline-powered squad. The EDA, since 2009, has had a small cities development program, or small cities development grant program. That currently has a fund balance of about $11,000. Besides interest, the only other budgeted revenues are the repayment of the Pet Stop Vet Clinic revolving loan fund. The EDA's focus for, it should be 22, is marketing new videos, BRE initiatives based off of the subgroups that are currently meeting, applying for a Small Cities Development Grant in '23, and they'll be looking at updating, purchasing new banners. And then at the September 20th meeting, the City Council and tonight approved the city's COVID, this round of grant funding, $100,000 for grants up to $4,000. The library, the city's required contribution is just over $74,000. That's dictated right from the Minnesota Department of Education, and that's 90% of the 2011 funding. We do anticipate getting about $22,000 in grant funding from Rice County. We were able to account for increased staffing to allow for 2 staff at a time. I think it was Friday and Saturday. Professional services, cleaning, copier, and then the villages of Lonsdale. Dues and subscriptions would be the lease of 8 new computers, Archive Social, which is a company that we contract with now to back up our social media sites in case there's a public data request. And that would be for the liquor store, the police, and library. And then capital outlay is consistent with the prior years. Our debt service funds are based off of the schedule of principal and interest. The council, during the budget process, agreed to draw down fund balances and not levy at 105%. The annual debt service in '22 for the PD facility is $164,000, and then this year's project, we are not funding that at the amount of $58,000. We're anticipating prepayment of special assessments to carry us over till next year. In regards to Parks and Rec, revenues would be the property taxes, LGA, franchise fees, and then rent that we receive from cell towers. There are no major facility or field projects planned for '22. We did budget $70,000 for trail maintenance, annual lease payments for a tractor as of now, archery targets, and then the city is a pay agent between the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources and our local snowmobile club, the Snow Wizards, and then we cost share in the summer rec program with TCU. PD facility, those funds were received this year, and then any expenses next year will be professional services, and then any construction in progress remaining to be completed. We held the improvement hearing for our 22 project. The scope location have been determined, anticipating an all-in cost of about $1.73 million, which includes the soft costs of construction and the soft costs of legal, admin, bonding, and engineering. Water, main revenues are obviously sale of water, connection fees from new homes, and then late fees, which run historically about 2% of the revenue generated from sales. Wages and benefits, we've got chemicals, repairs and maintenance would be general, water main breaks, and this was the first year, 21, that we incorporated funds for powder coating of hydrants. In talking with staff, that seems to have turned out well, so we did budget funds to continue that.
I actually thought we had all replaced a whole bunch of hydrants. It looked so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I saw it, I was, wow, that looks sharp.
Bright red.
They look like brand new. They don't look painted.
Professional services, respective to water, would be Gopher One Locates, financials. They pay the liquor, water, and sewer pay a percentage of our year-end audit. Flow meter testing, leak detection, and then Office 365. Engineering to be determined. We've got utilities, depreciation, we don't expense it, but our auditors account for it in our audit, so we expense that on a monthly basis. Software program service contracts, capital outlay would be half the cost of any new and replacement water meters, and focus on replacing MXUs. which is the box on the outside of the house that is used to read the water meters. And then any debt service and transfers associated with the water portion of street projects. The water treatment plant will be paid off in 2030. That annual debt service is about $78,000 a year. Before any transfers, there is currently a decrease in net position of $28,989. Sewer is very similar to water. We've got sales and then sewer access connections, which is paid with building permits for new homes. Those revenues are based off of 30 new homes next year. We have utility inspections. Those are completed prior to the ownership of a home being transferred. And then again, historically, late fees have been about 2% of sales. Expenses, wages, benefits, chemicals. Repairs and maintenance supplies would consist of general and manhole sealing. Professional services would be biosolids. We just approved the quote from Busho here for the second time this year of hauling and spreading. Again, financials, locates, sewer jetting and televising, utilities, chemical testing, and then capital outlay again is the same as water, half the cost of any new and replacement water meters and MXUs. Debt service, the annual payment in 22 on our wastewater treatment plant is $420,000. That would be paid off in 23, so we have 2 more years of payments, basically about $420,000. And then, like the water, the sewer fund pays respective. They're proportionate to their cost of street projects. And then before transfers, as at the time of writing this staff report, it was an increase of $136,000. I did find an error in a calculation, and we're looking at an increase in net position of, I think it was $207,000. The last department, Road and Bridge, their main revenues, property tax, LGA. By the end of the year, we will have received $73,000 in street maintenance funding. We're anticipating using that revenue in 22. Expenses, we're looking at doing a mill and overlay on Industrial Drive Southeast between Highway 19 and 4th Avenue Southeast. And then 4th Avenue Southeast would be going north up the hill to 4th Circle Drive, patching. And then we do have a little over $83,000 budgeted to save for a plow truck to be purchased in 23. And then the fire department, their budget for 22 was already approved back in February. By approving the resolution, the city council is acknowledging that the 105% of the required levy amount is not being levied for some or all of the debt service accounts. We are scheduling an agenda item discussion and public input on the proposed 2022 city budget and property tax levy for Thursday, December 9th at 7 p.m. and then directing the city administrator to send a copy of the resolution to Rice County. I think those were the 3 main things I had to say and have to get in the minutes. So, obviously, every decision made on the proposed 22 budget has a fiscal impact on the city. Alternatives would be to make any changes desired by the city council. And again, the resolution needs to be approved tonight and certified to the Rice County no later than tonight. So, kind of a, well, maybe longer than what maybe people wanted, but a quick final once over on the preliminary budget and property tax levy. As I said, the total levy is $2,445,000. How that breaks down is just over $582,000 to debt service, and then the balance, $1,860,000 to general fund departments. So.
Okay, and just for the residents, this is a culmination of many budget meetings over the course of the summer and all with the input from the department heads and city council and all that. I mean, it's really a good budget. We're really cognizant of the expenditures in town here. We're trying to keep our taxes affordable and in line, and especially with the young families and the seniors and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a good budget. I just want to thank the city staff and the city council for all the meetings and all the work that was put into it. So it's good.
I think we analyzed it all pretty good.
Can I ask a question? John? Joel, The, in the closing statements, and it's said a couple of times, we're acknowledging that 105% of the required levy amount is not being levied for some or all of the debt service accounts. And I think specifically we're talking about, are we talking about the building of the police facility?
No, it would be our debt service projects for our street recons.
Street recons?
Correct.
Thank you, that's all I know.
Okay.
I move we approve resolution 2021-52.
Motion by Councilman Kadada.
Second.
Second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, everyone. Consider approval of Resolution 2021-53, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a labor agreement between the City of Lonsdale and Law Enforcement Labor Services, Inc., number 369, patrol officers. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The Chief of Police and myself have met, I think we met 3 times with Law Enforcement Labor Services and several of the police officers that they represent. The current agreement runs from January of 19 and ends December 31st of this year. Some of the changes that were agreed to, some were, well, obviously the term is January 22 to December 31st of 24. Both parties seem to think that a 3-year agreement works for them, not too long, not too short. The first couple changes were just definitions to kind of just simplify them. Another change was to remove some of the fair share deductions with the, I believe it was Janice case at the Supreme Court. Employees are no longer required to pay a fair share, so we simplified that verbiage. Some of the other changes were allowing the chief some flexibility on changing shifts. Another one was kind of removing some redundant language on funeral leave, stating that if it's out of state, the max granted is 3 days. It's 3 days regardless, so that was just a redundancy. When it comes to the clothing allowance, or I should say, what the city provides officers upon being employed with the city, we wanted to clarify that what was listed there is for full-time only, so it wasn't expected that part-timers would receive the same amount of uniforms, things like that from the city. Currently, the officers after probation receive $700 a year, up to $700 a year in uniform allowance. They can use that to buy equipment, replace their uniform, you know, anything that they feel would help them perform their duties. That hasn't been changed since the early 2000s. We all know since then prices have skyrocketed. So what we're looking at recommending is increasing that to $822, $850 in 23, and $900 in 24. The language in the next section was added for the current contract for that same reason. $700 wasn't enough, so the officers wanted to be able to carry some over from the previous year up to $1,000. So we got rid of the $300 and just said it's $1,000 max. The proposed pay scale is based off of the scale that is in the current agreement. The increases between the steps on the lower end are higher than, or they decrease as you go up the scale. The reason for that is the council made a cognizant decision at the last contract to bring the police officers up to what market pay is. We were having lots of turnover. We'd hire officers, get them trained, and I mean, it seemed like right after they were out of field training, they were off to Faribault or Rice County or another agency that paid more. The wages proposed are consistent with the departments that are currently hiring right now. Police officer wages essentially range from $30 to $45 an hour. Health insurance contribution remained the same, that did not change. And then as far as the amount of ammunition that's provided by the city, we requested that that be lowered. Ammunition's hard for even police departments to get, so we didn't want to run up against an obstacle with not fulfilling that requirement.
Do we provide the service ammunition? No, I mean, we provide practice ammunition. Are they practicing with the same rounds that they're using for, no, they're using, okay. So but we provide them with the service ammo?
Yep.
And that's inventoried and regulated? Okay.
One of the, I believe it was the current contract, we wanted to include some fitness for duty. It may have been the one before that. And we do allow currently officers, when time allows, 45 minutes to work out. I'm not aware that that's really being utilized, simply because typically on evenings there's one officer and it's kind of impossible to work out and respond to calls. We do anticipate with the new facility and a shower, that being utilized more. So I wanted to put a definitive time on start to finish, and start is getting into workout clothes or changing to, if you're gonna take a shower, that time on, that all included in there. I didn't want 45 minutes to work out and then a half hour to get ready, or it gets, drug out for longer than it needs.
So we don't have workout facilities at the new police station, is that?
Correct.
So, but we do have it at the fire hall?
Yes.
So they would theoretically be working out at the fire hall and then have to go to the police station to shower and whatnot?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
They could also use Snap Fitness. The St. Louis Park police officers have used the Snap Fitness facility up there, and the city actually reimbursed for the membership. So since that's closer than running the fire department, I just thought I'd bring that up.
In regards to when the fitness for duty test is done, we changed that to just needs to be done once a year, scheduled by the officers. And as I said earlier, the agreement would run January 1st, 22 to December 31st, 24. There were other proposals submitted by each party, but during negotiations, just working through them, talking through them, we withdrew some, they withdrew some. The fiscal impact would be an increase in cost to the city of approximately $55,000 over the term of the agreement. Not knowing what health insurance increases are going to do, that is not in that dollar amount. Alternatives would be to not approve the proposed resolution and provide staff direction on any desired changes and renegotiate the terms. And then included with the staff report is proposed resolution 2021-53, and then a red line version of the agreement. And we are required by statute to approve labor agreements by resolution.
So I would guess by the fact that we're here tonight, both parties were satisfied with
Correct.
everything?
Are we up, are our officers up to date on their fitness for duty?
No.
So when this new contract starts, they will get caught up?
No, they'll end up doing this year.
Okay.
Jason, do you plan on, with the language changing from 12 hours to just a shift, do you plan on scheduling them for 12 hours, 10 hours, 8 hours? What's your plans on that?
Well, it's kind of based on if hire more officers, especially if we want more officers, we'll probably continue with 12-hour shifts, which would put me at 2 night officers and 2, running opposites. What I get was, well, what I want to have the opportunity to do is make 2 of those positions like a power shift, so I can adjust
That's what I was getting at, just looking at overtime, it's not, 40 hours kicks in overtime, it's per shift kicks in overtime. So if you're scheduled for 8 hours and they're, you know, on average working a 10-hour shift just to get through, you know, our overtime could add up in a hurry. Just so you're aware of that.
Your Honor, do you know if this has been reviewed by attorney, since it's a contract, and there is contract law and there are ordinance to compare it? This latest version?
It was not reviewed by the city attorney. It's the same, it's basically, well, I mean, with
There's
the exception
word-
of the changes, the same contract that was reviewed and approved by the city attorney at that time.
So it includes the changes that were made in the verbiage, Joel? And so the attorney has seen the changes in the verbiage?
He has not, no.
So I'd like, Your Honor, to consider that, and look at it.
Um,
It doesn't mean we can't approve it, but if the attorney comes back, I just want to go on notice that they do need to look at that. I assume Joel has done the due diligence, but I'd sure like the safety net of having the attorney look at it. Since there's changes, Your Honor.
I think the changes are red line, you've probably seen them.
Yes. And the city attorney's here tonight, if he wants to look at the red line changes, it'll take him 4 minutes to look at it, that's fine.
Well, I guess it's whatever, we haven't.
I just bring up, I won't.
Well, if the council wants the city attorney to review it, then I would recommend that the resolution be amended. That'd be, number one, the labor agreement effective January 1st, 2022 between the city of Lonsdale and Law Enforcement Labor Services, Local 369, patrol officers, be approved pending city attorney review.
Okay, I'd move to approve on that, Your Honor.
Motion by Councilman Cherney,
Second.
second by Councilperson Fear. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of a proposal submitted by WSB in the hourly reimbursable not to exceed amount of $61,988 for design, project manual, permits, and bidding services for the 2022 street and utility improvement project. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Well, we had the neighborhood meeting earlier this month, the neighborhood meeting earlier this month, the improvement hearing earlier in the meeting. The resolution was approved to proceed to final design. The next step would be to consider approval of the proposal submitted by WSB in the amount of $61,988. The project understanding is consistent with the feasibility study, which the council approved on August 12th. The project approach and work plan is based off of that feasibility study, discussions with staff and prior projects. The schedule would be final design October through December. Bidding end of December through mid-January. Bid opening is tentatively scheduled for January 18th of '22. As has been stated, the fee is $61,988. This fee was reviewed by staff and discussed with WSB. The fiscal impact would be the cost associated with phase of the project be included in the bonds sold to finance the project. The alternative would be to not approve the proposal, and the project would not progress until such time the council considered and approves the proposal for the final design and bidding. And then included with staff's report is the proposal from WSB.
This is pretty much standard procedure from what we've been doing. Nick, is this your design or 100% yours, or does John send you down the road?
I'll be working on it, yes, and we'll have, we'll have a team of some people here at WSB working on the plans and specs, but I'll be signing the plans, the city engineer, and be involved with the design, yes.
Good. So when it goes good, we can say, Nick did that.
Right. That's the goal.
Nick, is that damn John?
There he goes again.
Right. I move we approve.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion by Councilman Kadada, second by Councilman Cherney. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of resolution 2021-54, a resolution approving a purchase agreement. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Earlier this year in March, the city entered into a purchase agreement and then subsequently sold the 10 acres on Pondview Drive. Since then, the company that purchased that parcel is interested in purchasing the 11.4 acre parcel on the south side of Commerce Drive, which would be directly north of this parcel, or the Pondview Drive parcel, and west of Technical Methods Incorporated. This is the third party or company that has indicated that they would consider combining these lots into a larger parcel to create more possibilities for the development and site planning. The mayor and I had met with a local business and his potential partner, and they alluded to the same thing. They wanted these two parcels. We also met, when we met with United Properties at their office in Minneapolis, they indicated the same desire that if they were interested, they would want a larger parcel to have more options for development and configuration. And then the, I guess the purchase agreement is with ALG. They're looking at it the same way as the previous two companies. The main points of the purchase agreement are a purchase price of 48 cents a square foot, or just over $238,000. $5,000 in earnest money provided by the buyer, and then under certain circumstances it's refundable, non-refundable. We're looking at a closing date no more than 90 days from the date of the agreement. The city is required to provide a limited warranty deed, pay the title commitment, city pay for half the closing costs. We would be responsible for the assessment, the balance of the assessment that is on that lot of a little over $137,000. So at closing, the city would receive a check for, you know, the purchase price less any closing costs, and then less the assessment, and then a week later they send us a check for the assessment. So kind of a weird way that it gets done, but the city does in the end get the purchase price less the closing costs. ALG to pay for title insurance, half the closing costs, and then they would be responsible for any future special assessments levied against the property. Both parties acknowledge they have the authority to enter into the agreement. Both parties are indemnifying and defending each other for actions when they respectively own the parcel. ALG defaults on the agreement, the city's only recourse is retainage of the escrow. If the city defaults, ALG is entitled to return of the escrow funds and has the option to initiate a civil action to compel the city to purchase the property. If the agreement is terminated, the terminating party shall cite the section authorizing such termination. The non-terminating party has 3 days to dispute the termination. And then if the parties cannot agree on the termination, civil action may be initiated. Agreement's governed by the laws of the state of Minnesota. And then the city can repurchase the property if construction of a building has not begun within 1 year from the date of closing. By approving the resolution, the council is agreeing to sell out Lot D, Lonsdale Business Park, according to the proposed agreement, authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute the deed and other closing documents as may be necessary. Obviously, the fiscal impact is the purchase price less closing costs and receiving the special assessment payment shortly after we close. The funds will be deposited into the Business Park Debt Service Fund and used to pay the debt service principal and interest. Alternatives would be to not approve the proposed agreement, and then attachments enclosed would be the aerial photo of Outlot D of Lonsdale Business Park, the Business Park plat, the proposed resolution, and purchase agreement. This is, with the exception of the date and the legal description, the exact same purchase agreement that was entered into earlier this year. So I guess with that, I would entertain any questions.
It would
from the
appear
city
then that
council.
both parties' attorneys have, at least have copies of this, the way it looks.
Correct.
Right. It's all
Yep.
been reviewed.
Yep, this, like I said, it's word for word the same agreement except the date of the agreement and the legal description. And it was reviewed by the city attorney at that time.
I would assume any lot combinations or rezoning, platting, that would all be borne by them? That would all be there?
Correct, yes.
And Joel, is this the same company who bought the other 2 parcels on Pondview?
Yep, it is the company,
It's the same company.
that we entered into to purchase that 10-acre parcel on Pondview.
So if we allow this to go through, how many acres will they have then, total?
21.4.
And when the size of the parcel was what originally? The whole industrial park? I'm trying to figure out what percentage
Oh,
of they're
I'm
gonna
guessing
have.
80 acres with the
it's
pond
about
and
25.
everything.
And to refresh my memory, I believe that when we purchased that property and developed it, you've told the council that it would cost $2.59 a square foot for us to break even. Is that a true statement?
Correct.
Okay, when we're selling it for 48 cents a square foot.
And then recently, the EDA entered into an agreement with LoopNet, and the parcels are currently being advertised for $1.95 a square foot, I believe.
So we're a little bit premature in selling this then, because the land value out here is skyrocketing. We're out of land for residential. We're looking for that. Now we're tying it up with the same company who bought other 2 parcels, which I believe that company, part of the ownership, was one of the people that developed the damn thing originally. That being said, I'm not alluding to anything other than the fact that it seems like we're just chasing our tail here. We're selling property that we need to break even at $2.59. There's no building on it other than we have the option that if they don't start building a year from now, something. I can't go forward with this. If I own this property and somebody came to me with no specific, if they had specs, or if they were an existing business that had a plan, I'd say yes, go for it, because the tax revenue would definitely offset it. But here we're giving a chunk to the same person that we gave a nice chunk to again, no specifics on it, other than that, we'll put something on it, and we're defaulting by $2 with no specific plan. I can't move forward on this, Your Honor and Counsel.
Well, I think a couple things to be clear. The 259 factors in the deed, the state grant. Just so that's clear. I think secondly, do you have a plan B? Does anybody have a plan B?
Yeah, the plan B is what Joel said, Your Honor.
Not this.
LoopNet's advertising, something we haven't done before. It's a new advertising effort, because since that land's been sitting there for quite some time, and now we have a new charge, and we're all excited about it, Your Honor. That's my plan B.
That doesn't get us sold, doesn't develop buildings, but
Well, I want a building on there. If they have a building with a plan, and we're gonna have this built, and I say, let's go for it, but just speculation, Your Honor. I don't like it.
Has there been any kind of plan for the first parcel that they purchased? Have we seen anything on that? Or
They
just
did
thought?
provide, a design of some buildings. And I know, earlier this week, the contractor has been in contact with the city planner on timing of meetings, and it's my understanding, or our understanding, that plans are imminent to be submitted for a building on Pondview.
Your Honor, excuse me, Cindy, were you finished?
Not quite.
Okay.
So, we've sold the first portion, and we, we'll say a discount, because it's a discount, with the anticipation that someone will build a building and they're gonna be paying higher property taxes, so that's why we give them the deal.
Correct.
Now we're gonna go dealing again, and we have nothing on part A, and we're hoping for something for part B. I'm not real sold on this idea of selling them more land when they have nothing on the first part. And plus, besides the fact that we just entered into our agreement with LoopNet in the last month, I would like to certainly give LoopNet the opportunity
I'd
to
love
market our
to.
product.
And Cindy, and Your Honor, to that point, Your Honor, you asked me if I had a plan B. I have a plan C that just triggered. If this party is so interested in this parcel, which they are, since they own 10 acres of it already and they're very familiar with it, let's give them first right of refusal. let's throw a dollar amount on it. You guys can decide what that is and give them first right of refusal. Gives us an opportunity to market it. They don't have a specific plan in order. I think it's fair to do that, Your Honor.
I guess, what are you saying, first right?
First right of refusal. In other words, we, to Cindy's point, we take LoopNet, we start advertising it, we see what the interest is out there. By golly, somebody comes up and says, yeah, I want that property. Well, okay, we'll go back to the ALG and say, well, you have first right of refusal on this. We have an interested party.
I think then we should just reject it. I mean, I can tell you from all the work that Joel and I and the EDA has done, for the last 10 years, trying to sell these lots, we've been to Minneapolis. EDA has hired Cushman Wakefield, and we had to pay them a commission when they didn't bring anything to town. Basically, we brought the two buildings, TMI and Dispatch Trucking. Then we hired Cerrone, and that didn't get us anywhere,
Right.
other than paying more commissions. We had to pay a commission on the previous lot that we just sold. So if the council's not for it, I should say we should just decline it then. Just tell them, no, we won't accept the offer. But I do think we should then establish what the selling price is.
I agree with you, Your Honor.
What, we do have the 1 year on the first piece too, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And when,
Yeah, it's
when did
like-
that close?
Like,
Spring?
correct.
Right, and just to reiterate, I think Joel touched on that previously, when we met with Randall and his buyer, they wanted both lots so they can combine the lots
Right, and make it-
for one big site.
Right.
And United Properties said the same thing, they need the whole site. And this developer too is gonna put up the warehouse and all that kind of stuff. But I would say instead of making accusations or beating up on this developer, I think we should just say we won't accept it.
Right.
I don't think that's fair that you comment, and as you know, there's already been a cease and desist order against you
Well,
from
first of all-
commenting on that.
first of all,
But my
you're-
point is, we should just, if we're not gonna accept it, we should deny it.
If we, first of all, there's no allegations of defamation or whatever you're alluding to. I
think
have the right to talk to any contractor I want to. I
Yes,
have
you
the
do.
right to also bring to the attention of the public.
You also have a
people-
cease and desist order.
I do,
We have that document, but we're
let
not
me
gonna
put-
get into
let
it
me
now.
put it
We're not
this-
gonna, let's,
well, wait a minute, you've made accusations.
no, I did,
David, come up here,
No,
please.
no,
I can
wait.
ask you to come up
Councilman
here and talk
Cherney.
to. He has no
Cherney,
records in his
Cherney.
office, Your Honor.
Councilman Cherney,
Uh,
my point is, we're
nice
not gonna
exit
debate this.
strategy.
If,
That's the problem.
if we're not gonna accept it, we should just deny it. It's no use bad mouthing or saying this and that.
What does bad mouthing
Okay.
have to do with giving him the first right of refusal?
I-
Where did I bad mouth it?
Right.
I haven't mentioned anybody's name.
I think you said because he developed it originally, what's going on
Is
here
that
and all
not a true statement, Your Honor? It was
not-
you and he that developed the area.
That is not true.
Okay, then I stand corrected. Who
All
was
right,
it
that,
then?
see, right there, you made an accusation that's false, but it's being picked up by other people.
Well, let's clarify it then. Who did develop
The
that?
city of Lonsdale
City of
constructed.
And who hired
upon
the
me
pe-
receiving $1.5 million
What
lead
contractors
grant.
worked on the project? It was Rudd Construction, it was who else?
Councilman Cherney, I know you're doing this with the election coming up and your
What
your
election?
hidden
I'm not even
agenda.
running for office.
Okay,
I
my point is,
decline.
we're not gonna let this digress. If we are against selling the property, we should just
We're
decline
not
it.
against it. We're trying to promote it for the city. And now we
Okay.
have a mechanism that Cindy brought up.
Okay, so the question before you is, do you wanna accept this offer or not?
It's before the council, Your Honor, so let's take a vote on the council then, if that's the question.
In my personal belief here is we have the 1 year that we can get it back, if no building's coming. We're sticking over 65% of our road projects, we pay for that as a city. We don't break even on those.
You have to, as a governance model and a provider of services that the people can't provide for themselves, this is an economic venture for the city.
Right.
The citizens have to have a street to drive their vehicles
Right.
on. It's apples and oranges, Kevin.
Not really.
Well,
I
it's,
feel
I,
this is more important because you're gonna get tax base out of this plus jobs.
you
But
show me the buildings. You show me the
We have
buildings.
1
You
year.
show me what it is. Show me what it is right now.
It's grass right now.
Well, show me
been
what
grass
this
for a
builder's
while.
gonna put on it.
He's
Tell me,
coming.
Kevin.
He's
All right,
coming.
all right, Councilman Cherney, so we've, as you know very well, we met with Randall and his partner.
I didn't know that, Your Honor. That's a
You
first I
you didn't
heard.
know that?
It's
Okay.
irrelevant, Your
All
Honor.
right.
It's irrelevant.
You do know that we met with United Properties.
Your Honor, I don't know who you meet with because you and Joel do the deals on the thing. The city council isn't involved.
That is not.
We are
Until
updated.
you bring
We are
two-
updated every meeting. of
We're
the city.
updated, but we're not at the meeting. He asked if I was at the meeting, I had knowledge of
He didn't
it.
ask
That's
you
not
at
the
the
question that
meeting.
was asked. He asked if you were updated.
Do you guys want to gang up on me?
We're
That's
not
fine. Go
ganging
ahead.
up, but we're standing corrected here.
Well, I was very calm and collected about this property, selling it at 48 cents a
Okay,
square foot
so
with no
you-
design.
All right, so your point is not to sell it.
My point is to.
Okay, the question number two then is.
Wait a minute, you, let me answer. I have the right to, you asked my opinion. I said the first, I brought up the first thing, what was Plan C, B, and C, right? Right now, I think the best, since this person is already, the company's already purchased, has interest in it, I think we should give them first right of refusal to it, but go forward to Cindy's point and actively market it with this new company. I like the first right of
We are,
refusal.
this is not the only parcel in the entire.
I'm talking
business.
about these two
So my
people.
question is, right, the motion before you, or the, request before you is to consider approval of the purchase agreement.
I will not, I
Okay.
personally won't approve that.
All right, that's your opinion, okay. So then what, is there a counter offer? Is there just, that's it?
The counteroffer would be to give the party first right of refusal. You can put $1 on it, Your Honor, that's fine. And
At
go,
what-
pardon?
At what date? Are they just gonna sit in limbo?
No, we have to, it has to be day specific and.
My point is, the plan for them is to
What?
start the, building design to incorporate the both parcels.
Well, it's fair to them to come
You-
forward.
Yes,
And
you
let's
sir,
do
you
it.
have the right to ask any
Let's
question
do
or
it. I
comment.
mean,
It's all
let's see
good.
the design.
Okay, they don't know if they own both parcels.
You mean to tell, so they won't present their plan.
They submitted, and you've seen that in one of the meetings, a preliminary design of a concept plan. But they have not went down the path with the, building plat approvals and all that kind of stuff yet, because they don't know what they own.
Let me
But
put
my-
it this
my
way.
point
I
is-
think they would, for $1, for first right of refusal, they would go through with a plan, $1. So therefore, I would say the best option, since they're a good steward here in the community,
My, okay.
and they purchase land, let's do a first right of refusal for $1. Go ahead and pursue this,
They already are doing that,
what?
the LoopNet.
Continue to pursue it. It's only been active for a month. Give a first right of refusal to this company for $1. We pursue it to see what the interest is. The market's changed with the COVID. We're out of land on the residential side. I think it's only fair, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, so what are you saying?
What am I saying?
First right
With
of
respect, I would make a motion to go forward with this company, ALG, giving them the first right of refusal of this property and give us, I don't know, let him tell us what would be fair.
All right, I'll try this again, okay.
Okay.
They bought the one parcel, they wanted to buy this parcel to incorporate the 20
Something.
acres and design a building for
Okay.
that. And
All
we
right.
have emails and discussions Joel has with their builders.
Mhm.
But they don't know what to design if they don't own both parcels.
Well, let me put it this way. I can respect that. I can respect that.